Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Careers in Math, Get to Know an Actuary series. So in this series, I am featuring various actuarial professionals working in different areas, in different industries, as well as different career levels. So I am very excited to introduce you to our guest speaker for today. She was an insurance industry executive and she is now a member of many board of directors of different insurance organizations. And she previously hold positions in the C-suite like Chief Financial Officer, Chief Risk Officer, Chief Actuary, and more. So she definitely has a lot of things to say and share about her actuarial profession as well as her career journey overall. And don't forget to stay until the end because she will share tips on how you can connect with people in leadership. I know it works because it worked for me, and that's how I knew and connected with Sharon in the first place. So let's get started right away and let us welcome Sharon. Hi Sharon, so can you please share with us a little bit about yourself, your career journey, and perhaps your involvement in the actuarial community?
I'd be delighted to, thanks. I have a long story because I have a long career and I'm always a little bit uncertain about how far back to go. But I think it's informative. When I think about where I came from, I think that is sort of the grounding in how I got to where I am. I was raised on a farm in a rural community about 2 hours north of Toronto. So being good at math and a farm girl, I didn't know too much about what the careers were out there for math professionals. I assumed I would be a math teacher. And I went off to the University of Waterloo with the intention of being a math teacher. But once I got there, I had the opportunity to explore some other opportunities and some other alternatives. I had never heard of actuarial science, but I checked around with advisors and some other people. And what I heard was it's really hard, but there's lots of jobs and great pay. And I kind of went, okay, sign me up. That sounds good to me. But seriously, I liked the idea that it was a career in which you could combine a love for and a talent at math with business. And that really appealed to me. I also really liked the co-op program that they had at Waterloo, where you could get some work experience along with your studies. So by the time I graduated, I already had enough work experience to know that this is a career that I really will enjoy. I did get pretty focused in my last couple of years at Waterloo to pass those initial actuarial exams. So I did graduate at the same time I got my ASA. And I think that was really helpful to sort of move everything forward. Getting exams is still really critical in those early stages. I'm not going to talk about every job I had along the way, but I really, right almost from the beginning, I picked jobs that were just a little bit not traditional. I worked in a life underwriting department. I worked in a regional sales operation where I worked with the life insurance brokers every day. That was my job. I did have some more traditional actuarial jobs, product management, pricing, but I picked places where there were some really interesting challenges. I recall one job when I went there, the task was to replace the entire product portfolio. At the same time, we were implementing a brand new life policy administration system and rebuilding our distribution system. I mean, that was a pretty hectic couple of years, I can tell you. Stressful and busy, but so rewarding because you were really building something right from scratch. And that's kind of the opportunity I've always sought for. I did have a couple of years in reinsurance. I worked for a while with an accounting firm where I was involved in their mergers and acquisitions and corporate financing groups. And so all of those were somewhat non-traditional roles. My last employer, though, that I stayed with for quite a long time, I started again in sort of product management, but pretty quickly I got accountability also for the corporate actuarial area. And when my boss, who was the chief actuary, retired, I was very fortunate to get his job. So I became the chief actuary. And then after that, it was sort of a succession through some other roles, through rotation at the executive level. So I was the chief financial officer. I became the president and CEO of our Canadian operations. And then later, chief risk officer and chief compliance officer. In all of those sort of C-suite roles, the thing that you do is you interact a lot with your board. And I started to get really interested in board work and what they do and what's their role and how does that actually help a corporation. And I think we had a pretty good board, so I think that helped me to feel like this was a valuable contribution to the corporate world. So I actually went off and did a education program about being a director, the director's education program through Rotman School at U of T, and got my director's designation from the Institute of Corporate Directors. And that's really how I arrived where I am now, 4 insurance company boards. So in different businesses, because you have to worry about conflict of interest. So quite different businesses. And of course, I have also served on the board of the Canadian Institute of Actuaries. I was the president of the Canadian Institute of Actuaries, and now I'm on the board of the Society of Actuaries. You know, all of these are quite different roles, and yet for me, extremely, extremely rewarding.
Yeah, from your perspective, how has the industry changed over the years?
I think the industry has changed, and the role of actuaries has changed within the industry. You know, I was fortunate to come into the industry while we were at the point of time where automation, computerization was replacing a lot of the work that had historically been done very manually on pieces of paper with pens and pencils. And I was pretty happy not to have be in that era when junior actuaries really were pretty manual calculators. But I think that things do go full circle. I was involved quite a bit in taking manual calculations and putting them onto a mainframe computer. And then later, I was involved in taking calculations off that mainframe computer and putting them in spreadsheets, because then we could have control over them. And then now, of course, we're trying to get rid of spreadsheets because they don't have controls, and put them back into some new tools, new data-driven analytic tools. And so in some ways, it's kind of like there's going to be a new thing every few years, and we all have to learn how to adapt to that. So that is a thing that has been consistent over my career. It's that things, they may change, but in fact, there's a little bit that's the same as well. The industry itself, it's also evolved a great deal. At its core, life insurance is still a promise to pay somebody when the customer is dead. And that promise can be framed in so many different ways. So the core is there. Distribution, we still rather need some person, an intermediary, to talk to the customer and to persuade them to buy life insurance. It's not exclusively true anymore. There is more and more. We see people signing up online, but that's still not the most common way to buy life insurance. What has changed is the amount of automation, the speed at which all of those things can happen. People tend to do their own research, so they don't depend on their broker necessarily to do the research, which they used to. So that is a difference. Once you get an application, the speed of processing is wildly different than it used to be. Now it can be hours, and it used to be days, weeks, and sometimes months to get a policy issued. So, those things have changed radically. Our ability to use data, to analyze, to understand more deeply our customers and what they need and what they want, huge differences there. Our tools to be able to use that data and turn it into, market intelligence, wildly different than when I started off in the business. And you'd wait years to get even the simplest kind of experience data. So things have accelerated, I would say, is the main thing. So much.
Yeah, thank you for the insight. I totally can relate when you come on the wrong. Something is like changing that we have to adapt, is still the same. And sometimes it's the mainframe, the Excel is like, how can you use the tool to help you do the work, but then you still have the insight, the knowledge of what it's actually doing.
Right. Exactly. And that's always been a challenge, that even as we were programming mainframes way back in the beginning, we had to really be, essentially my bosses would always say, before you look at the computer output, what should the answer be? Because you should know, you should have some idea what the answer will be. And it's a way of testing to see if your program's working.
Yes, I get asked the question, what is an actuary a lot? And I'm sure you get that question a lot too. So from your, and I feel like there's no one single answer for this. So in your opinion, what is an actuary and what does it mean to be like a good actuary? Like what makes a good actuary?
Well, way back when I was dating my current husband, he used to introduce me as, this is Sharon, she's my wife. She's an actuary. They count dead people. I kind of thought, okay, that's not exactly what I do. But what we share as actuaries, it's not just this experience of surviving the exam process, although that's not insignificant, but we are trained to approach problem with facts and with data. We understand that it is necessary to layer on assumptions about matters that are unknowable. And we come up with answers that we call our best estimate. I think what we share is the understanding that the actual outcome is going to be something other than that best estimate. We take care, I hope, to ensure that we always communicate the breadth of that uncertainty. And I think that's sort of the core of what is an actuary. Now, what is a good actuary? Now, it depends on the role you have, obviously, but I'm going to speak from the perspective of somebody who wants to get into senior leadership, into management and senior leadership roles, where in particular, you will be communicating most of the time with people who are not actuaries. I do think that the uncertainty that we know is embedded in our answers can lead actuaries to that analysis paralysis. We've all heard that. What separates the good actuaries is the ability to make a reasoned choice from that available information and take a decision or take an action. I remember all too well telling my boss my best estimates and all the reasons that it was wrong. Once you get outside the actuarial profession, that doesn't go well. You really have to be able to make a recommendation, have confidence in it, but also be able to communicate that there is a plan B. There are some mitigating actions. If this goes wrong, here's what we will do to fix it. And I think that ability to have confidence in your answer, even when you know it's wrong, that is the thing that makes a good leadership actuary, somebody who can really interact and talk to executives other than other actuaries.
So your career is a very successful one, but is there one thing that you would like to do differently if you are given the chance in your career?
I don't think I would change a whole lot. I've arrived at a pretty happy place, looking forward to retirement one day, but not too soon. But as I look back, the one thing I've always been curious about was what would it have been like if I had gone into the P&C side of our business? If I'd had a little more insight and maybe a tiny bit more courage when I was back in university, I might have taken that path. But I can't say I regret anything that has happened based on the choices that I did make.
I always try to also learn to not regret our decisions, just like accept it and then try to see what we can do in order to improve the outcome in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So you are a member of several board of directors, including both for-profit and non-for-profit organizations. So do you have any tips for those who would like to be on a board?
Well, I think that the first thing is get on a board. There are lots and lots of opportunities within communities, whether it's in sports, healthcare, hospitals, arts organizations. Find something that you can be passionate about. These will almost certainly be not-for-profit and not paid, but you can acquire the experience about the differences between being a manager or in management and governance. And they really are two different activities. And I think that is the thing that is difficult a little bit when you first get on a board. You tend to think like a manager, and you have to be able to shift that. I think the other thing, of course, is that you meet people then outside of your immediate work area or your immediate friends. Those connections can be extremely valuable in time. And I'm always going to say, find something that you can be passionate about, because especially in not-for-profit organizations, they always need more help. And there will always be more to do than you have time to contribute. So you don't want to be doing something that you're not crazy about. It is absolutely deeply rewarding when you're doing something that you really care about. You do have to learn how to sort of set some boundaries and say, I can do this much and no more. And the other experience that you're going to get in that kind of environment is to see how your skills as an actuary may be useful to others that are outside insurance or retirement or anything actuarial in nature. It's that sort of fact-based, coming with data, learning from a base, and then layering on some assumptions to imagine a future. Those are skills that we have as actuaries that aren't necessarily shared by others, and that can be very valuable. Whether it's in I personally, I was in an arts organization, a small little opera company that I just love what they do, and I was thrilled to be able to sort of bring my thinking to help that organization. So I really think that's how you start, is getting in with the nonprofit. And I mean, obviously, as people progress through their careers, the other opportunities would be through professional associations like the CIA or the SOA, place where you can get some board experience that is, still not a paid, corporate, for-profit, commercial enterprise, but good experience nonetheless to start to make that transition. And when you're ready, you just have to start applying and use those networks that you have built through your not-for-profit work and leverage that into your for-profit work.
So we have many aspiring actuaries in our community on the YouTube channel. So do you have any advice for people who would like to pursue the actuarial path? And also for qualified actuaries who are working toward the next leadership level?
In the early stages, it's try things. You have to be bold and you have to get outside your comfort zone a little bit. And when you're outside your comfort zone, it's going to feel like really bad. But what you'll find is really remarkable is how quickly your comfort zone grows. And the more it grows, the easier it is to grow even more. So never hesitate to do something because I've never done it before, or I don't know anybody who has done that. Try it, just try. Certainly the exams are critical. That is that's where we all start, right? We have to get through that path. So that is for younger folks, the absolute most important thing. But I would also say, don't close yourself off from looking at some things that are a little bit on the peripheral. Data science is a fantastic path to get into the actuarial profession, because I think we are going to learn and depend more and more on data and our ability to model and make predictive models. So that is a great path if you don't have the entree directly into the actuarial profession. I think they are going to converge. Later in your career, once you're sort of established through the exams, because exams do take a lot of time, the next most important thing I would say is to volunteer. We talked a little bit about this, but getting into groups and organizations outside of your sort of immediate work is so important, because it really opens your eyes to what else is out there. And it doesn't have to always be actuarial volunteering. Certainly I worked for a fraternal benefit society. Fraternal benefit societies are founded on the concept of volunteerism, of helping one another. And I think that is a thing that has always been near to my heart, is I get so much out of volunteering. I mean, I feel like I benefit. And what you're doing is you are actually giving your time and effort and expertise sometimes to others, so they love it, they benefit, and that can, that just sort of makes you feel even more rewarded. But as you volunteer, as you sort of grow your volunteer activities, and it's whether it's within your own company, just doing something outside of your department, it's some interdepartmental thing. Local actuarial clubs are always looking for people to help out. Both the CIA and the SOA have huge numbers of committees and volunteers, and they're always needing more people. One of the things, and we talked about this a few minutes ago, was volunteer to take notes. It is the best way, really, to make sure you are going to be paying great attention because you have to record notes. It gives you the opportunity to speak to the leader of the meeting, whether it's the chairman or a manager or whoever it is, because there's going to be things you didn't quite understand, and that's okay. You can ask questions. I don't think there are very many actuaries that I have come across in my career who would say, no, I don't have time to talk to you. It may be, I need to put that off till next week, and that's fine. But people are always happy their time to help you understand something. So that is a key thing with volunteering, is make yourself invaluable. Pretty much nobody loves taking notes. So if you volunteer to do it, everybody's going to love you. and certainly that's a way that I started to get involved. You know, there's also lots of opportunities outside of the actuarial profession. In your community, for people who have kids, it's an opportunity to do something with your kids and make sure that you don't get disconnected from them through your career building years. It's a bit of a tough balance, I know, for parents, but that's another way of increasing your connections without necessarily increasing the amount of time that you take away from your family.
So, what do you think about today's episode? Are there anything that resonate with you in particular? I hope you learn as much as I do from sharing experiences and advices. Volunteering is definitely a great way to network within and outside of the organizations. And that's how I knew about Sharon and also other senior leaders in the actual community. So that's how I was able to observe and learn from them and build the network while working with them. Let me know if you want to hear more from senior leaders like Sharon. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I wish you a happy and productive week ahead, and I will see you in another episode. Bye!